Welcome back, everyone. POW Ponder Weather here. A huge concern today with this ice storm taking effect over 1,300 miles, extending from the Big Bend of Texas all the way and through western Tennessee. We've had numerous freezing rain reports down here in central Texas. A lot of power outages unfolding. I think those just expand as we get deeper into the afternoon hour, as most of this is going to be in the form of freezing rain instead of predominantly more sleet today, as a little bit more of a warmer nose aloft is going to allow all that precipitation to melt and freeze on contact as the Arctic air continues to press southbound. It's going to be pretty windy today and across portions of Kentucky, but heading into this weekend, especially on Saturday morning up there in the Northeast, those are wind chill advisories, folks. It gets dangerously cold. Not only the temperatures drop below zero, but the wind chills approach over 30 below zero up there. So that's why they've got those wind chill advisories. Here's the culprit of this setup. We've been talking about this low pressure center that's just been sitting and parking itself off the coast of California, brought all the rain for portions of Los Angeles into San Diego, and much cooler conditions down here. But man, this is the spokes of energy. They're sending these what they call short waves across Texas and Oklahoma through Arkansas as the Arctic air continues to press southbound. It's going to be on the move, but it's going to be taking its sweet time as well. So we got still about another 36 hours to deal with this ice storm, unfortunately. And today is going to be a nasty day as the most dangerous setup looks to unfold. So if you are new to the channel and like detailed weather breakdowns on North America, hit the subscribe button and you're in. You get all my daily content on this channel. It's also important to hit the like button as well. It definitely helps out more than you know. And for those that don't know, I also started a second channel over at POW Ponder Ultra. And this one's going to be more or less designed for short-term, weather analysis, but also a lot more of educational content. I will be uploading another video on that channel come this afternoon, but you can find me in the link below under POW Ponder Ultra. Let's delve into the details this morning with the temperatures, and it's all about the cold air, as it is definitely in place with below zero up there to the north. Look at that pocket of energy up there in the Northeast up into New England. Caribou sporting 14 below zero this morning, but you can see where the Arctic air is, folks. Yeah, well into the 20s, and where that system comes in out west, that's going to cause the overrunning setup where it is still warm, and it was expected to continue to remain warm, was that pesky southeast ridge that's still fairly dominant, and that set up the winter battle zone that unfolded and that over the last couple of days, and it still has about a 36-hour window. So for today, like I mentioned, the main concern is going to be ice, and it's going to be in the form of freezing rain, not really sleet with this setup. So yes, they're already getting a lot of freezing rain down there in central Texas. Out in west Texas, there's going to be another wave that comes across a good chunk of north Texas that will extend into portions of Arkansas. As we get deeper into the afternoon, heading into tonight, and as we head into tonight during the overnight hours, there's probably going to be more of an intense wave that comes across. So it's definitely going to be a bumpy ride. I'm expecting a lot of power outages, and unfortunately, this is freezing rain, folks. This is all going to coat, and all the trees, the bridges, the overpasses, all the roadways, and especially the power lines. And that's where they're already seeing that significance down there in central Texas this morning. That's just going to unfold and even intensify as we head out into west Texas and to north Texas. So I'm expecting, unfortunately, a lot of power outages today. So definitely be prepared and have plan B in place. Just prepare now in case, power does go out. You have a plan B and get everything charged and ready to go, so you can have your generator ready, so you can be as safe as possible. But yeah, this is going to be the swath of this ice storm that's going to be really locked over a good chunk of Texas today, through Arkansas, really gets inundated as well into western Tennessee, and even portions of Kentucky. It's all about just kind of a chilly rain further to the south across South Texas and further into portions of Louisiana, getting into Mississippi and Alabama. You can see for the rest of the country, it's fairly clear. It's on the clearer side. So there's actually not much going on. It's taking all the energy down south with this ice storm, and you can see the expansion heading into later on the day on going into Thursday morning. We're still dealing with the ice storm warning does not end until Thursday morning around 9 o'clock. So a lot of kids are going to be home from school again. They're going to be closing a lot of the schools in these areas, and the heavier rain pushes further south across the deep southeast. Well, let's take a look at the setup, and this is the main concern about these what they call ice accumulations on everything. And these are the probabilities of at least 1/10 of an inch. And this is a huge swath, folks. This is why they have the expansion of not only the winter storm warnings, but the upgrade of the ice storm warnings in these areas. And some of these areas could easily pick up a 1/2 inch or even possibly greater amount, especially west of Fort Worth. But yeah, here's the bullseye of these ice storm potential, at least down to San Antonio, to Austin, to Fort Worth, to Dallas, to Odessa, to Midland, to Lubbock, all the way up to Little Rock, going into southeastern portions of Oklahoma, portions of central Oklahoma, much of Arkansas, and into western Tennessee, and even portions of Kentucky has that potential of at least 1/10 of an inch of ice. Here's the latest update from the high resolution guidance showing that potential in some of these areas, like I mentioned, could really get nasty. I mean, once you get to a 1/2 inch of ice, that's damaging. Once you get to 3/4 of an inch ice, that's really considered crippling. And that's when you have huge concerns of power outages in a lot of these areas. So here's the swath over the next 24 hours, 24 to 36 hours as this kind of swings across. So definitely be prepared just to stay home and stay off the roads, because there's nothing good's going to happen today, trust me, with power outages being the highlighted concern for these areas as it just starts weighing down on the trees. If we kind of zoom in to say the Dallas-Fort Worth area, this is the HRRR model on a kind of zoomed in variety. And like I mentioned, west of Fort Worth, it's starting to hint at a dangerous situation down across Fort Worth and out west of Fort Worth. They could easily pick up a 1/2 inch, if not more, of ice. And this is adding to these totals. I know down to Austin and to the San Marcos area, they've already picked up a 1/4 inch, right? So these are adding to your totals that you've already seen with this storm. This is what's left to come, and that's the concern with this ice storm, with everything that's going to unfold, with is just inundated with freezing rain today. And going into Friday, we still even have a refreeze. So we're still going to get a little bit of a rebound on Thursday afternoon down here further south, but it all freezes again as you go, try to get to work on Friday. The kids try to come back to, go back to school on Friday morning. You're probably going to have some more school closings even on Friday morning, if not delays down here in a good part of Texas and Arkansas where they've got this storm warning. But further to the north, I mean, look at the Arctic air mass, right? We start to reprieve. Friday's kind of the transition time where finally the Arctic air starts to lose its luster, if you say, and as it pushes further north, it has more of a squeeze play and then elongating and really pushes that polar lobe and diving down there into the northeast. And so by Friday, there's the cold front diving down into the northeast, bringing a stronger push of Arctic air for them. Further to the south, that rain just moves along into portions of Florida and into portions of Georgia, getting into the Carolinas with some of those heavier rains. But notice out west, I do feel the rains are starting to be entering the picture out west, and they're going to get some rains coming back for the West Coast as the overall pattern is going to change as we get deeper into the week, and especially heading into next week. So, but we did have some breaking news, folks. It finally snowed in Central Park. It was the longest on record. I know a lot of you guys are like, get your snow blowers out. I ain't much. It's not much, but at least it's something. And it broke the drought that's the longest in history. It was the longest, the longest time they had their first measurable snow on record. It beat the 1973 record in Central Park all the way back from January 29, 1973. So after midnight, they were able to record about 4/4 of an inch, and Central Park, New York, to break that snow drought that was well over 300 days. So glad you finally got to see a little bit of snow up there, and at least put an end to that record. But yeah, for the rest of the country, there's the rain. So here's the precipitation. Like I mentioned, that's most of this is going to be in the form of freezing rain over the next couple of days. But further south, we've got some heavier rains building. That's why they do have a slight risk for excessive rainfall going into tomorrow. So we're still these are the areas that have been hit hard really for the last month or two. It's still getting inundated with very heavy rain in these areas. Another 2 to 4 inches is probably not out of the question for the next couple of days. And like I mentioned, once we hit towards Friday going into Saturday time frame, the rains do come back from the Pacific Northwest, heading into at least portions of Northern California gets back into the action with more rain showers for them. But there's the setup for Saturday as the transition finally relieves that Arctic air and comes with that southwest wind. That'll press the Arctic air mass, or this polar lobe, really confined up into the Northeast. That's where we have that pink paint bomb there as the temperatures really drop in a big way. At the same time, we've got another trough entering back in the picture off the California coast. That brings the rains back for them, and I think they even get heavier as we get deeper into the weekend heading into next week. But yes, it's all about the cold temperatures going into Saturday morning. Look at the drop of the single digits across the Ohio Valley and across the mid-Atlantic states, but up here into the upstate New York, getting up into a good chunk of the Northeast, we've got dangerously cold temperatures, folks. These are actual temperatures there in Vermont, New Hampshire, back into Maine there. That's 20, if not almost 30 below zero. We are 35 below zero up there in Quebec. So this is definitely, if we hit 1 degrees in Central Park, that would be some coldest temperatures they've seen in a long time. And it gets really seriously dangerously cold with the wind chills. This is some crazy stuff. 40, if not almost 50 below zero feels like in these areas. That's up here 67 below zero. I was looking at Mount Washington, New Hampshire up there on the summit. They could be approaching a 100 below zero on the wind chill. So yeah, but it's a quick hit. I mean, it's a quick hit. Some of these bigger, even New York City with 15 below, if that happens, that's been many years since that actually happened down there in New York City. But it's a one-day wonder. It's a quick hit with very extreme Arctic air. And then by the time we go into Sunday, especially in the next week, it quickly rebounds. Because let's take a look at the overall jet stream, as we head into the weekend. So we got that spoke of energy coming back for the West Coast, bringing some rain for them. We've got that one last gasp of Arctic push that's going to be inundating for the Northeast, but that will be moving out quickly because there's Sunday. This is how quickly it rebounds, guys. It rebounds in a big way. So you wouldn't think there was an Arctic air mass in place most of the week, because by Sunday you quickly rebound to most of the country will be above average by then, from Alaska through British Columbia and much of the lower 48. Gets into the warmer temperatures. That Arctic air quickly lifts up and back into Canada, and we can almost say goodbye really to that Arctic air mass as we get, by the time we get into Sunday time frame, but especially next week. So, but here's the rains coming back on Sunday. I think they originated on Friday, but they really start to intensify on Saturday and really pick up by Sunday, inundating the Pacific Northwest, down there in Portland, down there in the Seattle area, back into San Francisco, the San Jose area. They get more rain showers. You notice the rest of the country is pretty clear, right? So you're going to need a break after you've been dealing with all that situation that's unfolding over the last couple of days as the atmosphere more or less resets itself. But yes, there's the overall rainfall. If we do the expansion for over the next 7 days, it adds those totals across the West Coast and brings those heavier rains back into northern and central California. But like I mentioned, it quickly rebounds. So the Arctic air definitely goes away. So by the time we get into next week, those warmer temperatures do come back in a big way, especially for the central and eastern 2/3 of the US. And the trough comes back in off the west coast with elevated rain showers and cooler conditions back again for a good chunk of the west and even the desert southwest, and the increased rainfall picks up as well. So we're going to be adding, as the temperatures start to rebound and start to warm, we'll have that jet stream lift further to the north and create more of a zonal flows type setup, but that'll also help increase the precipitation in form of more rain and not really much wintry precipitation, you know, as we head into next week. So guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely hit the subscribe button, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. I'll be updating today on those platforms as well, and catch the next update. Why I protect you before and